Okay, well, thank you very much, Chair, members, senators. The work of this committee is very important, and I hope my appearance will be helpful. I am accompanied here today by the Women of Finance. Isabelle Jacques, who is the Assistant Deputy Minister, Jennifer Aitken, Assistant Deputy Minister also of Law Branch, and Sarah Paquette, who is the CEO of Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Centre of Canada. My ministerial colleagues have explained how the Emergencies Act was invoked and carried out. I'm here to speak about the economic costs of the occupation and blockade and the measures carried out under the Emergency Economic Measures Order. It was just 3 months ago that we saw the end of blockades of key border crossings and the occupation of our nation's capital, doing great damage to Canada's economy and to our reputation as a reliable trading partner. Tens of millions of dollars in daily trade were disrupted due to the blockades at border crossings. According to StatsCan, in Coutts, Alberta, about $48 million in daily trade was affected by the blockades. In Emerson, Manitoba, about $73 million in daily trade was affected by the blockades. The blockade of the Ambassador Bridge affected about $390 million in trade each day. This bridge supports 30% of all trade by road between Canada and the United States. The world's confidence in Canada as an investment destination was being undermined. We fought fiercely to protect Canada's privileged trading relationship with the United States during the NAFTA negotiations and in the face of the illegal and unjustified 232 tariffs. We could not allow that hard-won success to be compromised. And we could not allow the livelihoods of Canadian workers to continue to be threatened, just as we were all working so hard to recover from the economic damage caused by COVID-19. Ainsi, le lundi 14 février.
As a result, on the 14th of February, more than 2 weeks after the beginning of the occupations and blockades, the Government of Canada invoked, as a last resort, the Emergencies Act to restore public order. Within the framework of this necessary measure, the Emergency Economic Measures Order entered into force on the 15th of February and introduced several temporary financial measures. Following the end of the blockades on the 23rd of February, the government revoked the Emergencies Act declaration by virtue of the Emergency Measures Act and all temporary measures contained in the Emergencies Decree and the Emergency Economic Measures Order. Madam Chair, I would like to explain the temporary measures under that order and explain why they were necessary and efficient. The order contains measures to limit funding of illegal activities that led to the state of emergency, that is, funding from various organizations and individuals.
Canadian financial service providers, not the Government of Canada, were required, without the need for a court order, to freeze or suspend the account of an individual or business participating in the blockades and to refuse to provide service or to facilitate any transaction related to funding the illegal blockades and occupation. In practice, they did so based either on information they received from law enforcement agencies authorized to be disclosed by the Emergency Economic Measures Order, or information collected from their own internal processes. I'd like to emphasize a very critical point here, that financial service providers made these decisions independently. There was no political direction. As of February 21st, during the period when the order was active, enforcement action under the Emergency Economic Measures Order had culminated in the freezing of approximately 280 financial products, such as savings and checking accounts, credit cards and lines of credit, for a total of approximately $8 million, including $3.8 million from a payment processor. Further, 170 Bitcoin addresses were identified and shared with virtual currency exchangers. law enforcement agencies were authorized to provide information to Canadian financial service providers. This includes the identity of persons and entities believed to be participating in the illegal blockades. If the law enforcement agencies were satisfied, this disclosure would help financial service providers apply the order. For their part, Canadian financial service providers were directed to review their relationships with anyone involved in the blockades on an ongoing basis and to report the existence of related property and transactions to the RCMP or CSIS. Madam Chair, as the government said at the time, and has proved to be the case, these measures were temporary.
Time is up. We can now.
I appreciate many of us here are elected and we have a partisan job to do. But I really want to speak very sincerely as Canada's finance minister and as a person who fought so hard, supported really by our whole country, to maintain that essential trading relationship with the United States. It was clear to me that with each passing hour, our economic reputation with the United States as a reliable trading partner and as a reliable investment destination was being damaged. And I'm going to quote Elissa Slotkin, a Michigan congresswoman, and this is what she had to say. It doesn't matter if it's an adversary or an ally. We can't be this reliant on parts coming from foreign countries. The one thing that couldn't be more clear is that we have to bring American manufacturing back home to states like Michigan. If we don't, it's American workers who are left holding the bag. And then she vowed, and I quote, to continue the work that Michiganders have been pushing for over the last 30 years, bringing manufacturing of critical items back to the U.S. so that we're not dependent on others for our economic security. This is so dangerous to Canada, colleagues. I was deeply, deeply concerned that these illegal blockades and this illegal occupation would provoke a whole new wave of protectionism and deeply erode our trading relationship with the United States. That was a real economic threat. And going back to Mr. Motz's point, reputational harm is not something that you necessarily feel fully in the moment. It's something that you feel in the years ahead. Later on, I'll quote Flavio Volpe, who talked about, at the time, his concerns that going forward, investors would not choose to put their money into Canada because they would quite reasonably say to themselves, there is no guarantee that parts that we build in Canada will be able to freely and easily travel to the United States. I also spoke directly with U.S. government officials. They were very, very worried. And I was very, very worried as well. The measures that we took were serious. And the members of this committee are right to scrutinize them carefully. But I do also want to remind everyone here that the economic harm in the moment and in the weeks, months, and indeed years to come was serious, and it was becoming more serious every single day.